the issue of Nairobi County Assembly has always been a very interesting issue, because Nairobi County Assembly is an assembly in a cosmopolitan city. Because if you look at the representation in the assembly in itself, is almost 50-50. Part of it is the Kenya Kwanza side and part of it is the Azimio side. So I would imagine the very unique situation that the governor finds himself in, where half of the MCAs who are supposed to pass his bills and his issues are on the other side. Is it causing with the MCAs, or is it just creating a sense of a working relationship, knowing too well that the challenges he faces are quite different maybe from a governor in a place like Tharaka-Nithi, where all the MCAs are from UDA party, for example? That said, these issues of uniting members, one would ask, unity of what? Unity to agree to pass the finance bill, which maybe their members who elected them in the wards are against it. Unity to, because you see, is the MCA answerable to the governor, or is the MCA answerable to Mwananchi? So those are some of the issues, and it could be that this, what they are referring to as unity, could actually be one of the usual attempts by the politics to force the MCAs to speak in one voice, even when it's against the people they represent in the assembly. Also, it also brings about issues of issues really of the thin line between the executive and the legislature. When you say that the MCAs are Sakaja's allies, what do you mean? Do they represent Wananchi, or do they represent the interest of the executive? So this remains to be a reflection of even what is happening in the national perspective, in the national, where there are issues to do with the legislature and the executive and that thin line. But I mean, if the replacement is Waithira, whom, as my fellow friends have said, she's quite, you know, you admire her because of the attempt she has made. She has vied in South B twice and won. She's a great environmentalist. She has passed very progressive bills in Nairobi County Assembly around the environment. So congratulations to her, and I wish her all the best. All right. So do I have actually... This Molima, this Mount Kenya, it seems that the issues of that mountain are both figurative and practical, because it seems like that mountain is a mountain that really gives people sleepless nights, quite literally. Now, that said, to an extent, while I do differ fundamentally with his utterances, those issues that he has attempted to address, issues like issues of agriculture in the region, those are real and legitimate issues. In the last year, your average macadamia farmer was selling a kg of macadamia between 180 to 200 shillings. Right now, that farmer is selling macadamia between 20 shillings and 30 shillings. So, for 1 kg, they have lost income of around 150 shillings. That's a lot of money to a farmer. He has attempted to talk about issues of gangs and such things. He has attempted to talk about issues of alcoholism. And for those of us who come from the region, we have always said the best rehabilitation for our youth in that region, I being one of them, the best rehab is opportunities. They have constantly talked about, let's open rehab, people are drinking too much. The question is, what should they be doing instead of drinking? Working, getting scholarships to go to TVETs. But because of lack of equality and in the division of the national cake, while our youth are getting a bursary of 2,000 shillings, in other regions they are getting a bursary of 50,000 shillings. So Mount Kenya region is a marginalized region. We are marginalized, we are disadvantaged on all angles, we are just on the periphery, while some people would imagine that we are doing very well.
So just now, quickly, before we move, Cynthia, when she said Mount Kenya is a marginalized region, you smiled.
I smiled.
Wanja?
Well, marginalization is relative, because you see, when you're comparing, you have to ask yourself, what is the base? Where are we starting from? Now, I mean, with a lot of sympathy and appreciation for our friends from the other region, indeed, the issue of the equity and the equality of the vote has been an issue. And when we are saying we are marginalized, the debate has always been twisted to mean these Mount Kenya people want a lot of resources. But what we are saying is, when we're talking about equality of the vote and equitable distribution of the national cake, we are not saying the people who already have the cake, some of it to be taken away from them. All we are saying is, add in a way that will look nice even to us, so that our children don't get a dismal bursary of 2,000 shillings. But that said, on issues you have mentioned about DP Gachagua being handed the so-called Mount Kenya spokesmanship. But really, the debate is not merely, you see, when you say hand over the mantle of spokesmanship, it's not merely handing over a microphone, or is it handing over a fimbo to say that you are the leader. The leadership of the region, there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of issues and dynamics to be considered. For example, this is a region that thinks very highly of Uhuru Kenyatta, who has been the leader of the region for many years. These are people who are really convincing us to hand over the leadership to them. But remember, the people have been feeling very disgruntled when they hear that the leader they love so dearly is being made fun of, his sheep are being stolen in Northlands Farm, his children are being harassed. So really, for us, it has been an issue of, do you force leadership to be bestowed upon you to be the kingpinship and spokesmanship of the region, or does it come naturally out of the love and the admiration of the people towards your leadership?
Okay. Na kuaibishwa hadharani ndani ya ODM kama sababu kuu za kumkimbia kinara wao na kujiunga na muungano wa Kenya Kwanza.
Asante Olive. Nitajaribu kujibu kwa Kiswahili kwa sababu tunajibu mambo ya taifa leo.
Aha.
Huyo kinara ambao wanamhepa, zamani za kale alikuwa chama ya Ford Kenya. Kukakuwa na mvurugano, akasema anataka kuhama. Alipohama, alihama mpaka kukua mbunge wa Lang'ata, na alipoenda chama ya NDP kulifanywa by election mwaka wa 94. That is Raila Odinga. Swali ni, ukiwa kwa kweli umesikia masheria ya chama ya ODM imekukasirisha na haujafurahi, demokrasia yako inakuruhusu kuhama uende chama kingine. Hawa wabunge wanamhepa, imekuwaje wanamhepa kwa magazeti, kwa Taifa Leo, lakini hakuna yoyote yule aliyemhepa kwa kuandika barua na kusema asante na kwaheri, nimepotea. In fact, wakati ambayo waliitwa kesi kwa hiyo mashtaka ya kutokuwa na fidelity kwa chama yao, walienda hadi na wawakili wa kuwatetea. Kwa hivyo, unamhepaje lakini hutaki kutoka? Kwa sababu kama unataka kabisa kuoneshana unataka demokrasia, utatoka chama hiyo, kukuwe na by election, kwa sababu watu wamekupenda sana uko kwa ground na uko mzuri, watakuchagua na hiyo chama mpya ambayo utaenda. So kwetu imekuwa jambo la kusikitisha, na unajua mwisho ina reflect kwa wananchi. Wananchi wakati ambayo waliamka wakachukua rafiki yangu Cynthia wakasema tunataka Cynthia kwa hii chama ya machungwa tuseme ama ya viazi. Kwa nini umehama?
Hiyo ni gani ya viazi?
ya mandizi. Ukaenda chama kingine, inamaanisha watu walikuchagua kwa sababu pia ya hiyo chama. Kwa sababu watu ukiangalia ukweli ya mambo ni kwamba siasa yetu ya Kenya, hata tukiwa tunajifanya hatuelewi, siasa yetu ya Kenya pia inakuanga na tribal dynamic na tribal mobilization. Ukiangalia chama ya ODM, especially hiyo upande ya Nyanza na Western, kuna vile tukiwa na hiyo tiketi ya ODM, chance yako ya kushinda kama ni mbio uko miles ahead. So tumekuwa tukiuliza, imekuwaje kama watu walikuchagua kwa chungwa sasa umeenda? Unajua si ati watu walikuchagua tu wewe peke yake, walikuchagua pia chama na hiyo msimamo yako. Kwa hivyo kama kweli wamenyanyaswa, hawajafurahi, wahame. Na tumeona happen pale kwingine na ikafanyika. Lakini tumekuwa pia tukijua kwamba mtu yoyote Mkenya anahitaji kupewa maendeleo. Whether ulichagua nani na ulichagua nani, imekuwaje wamejua ati hawa watu wa hiyo sehemu hawakuchagua hii government? Kwa sababu kura inakuanga siri ya mtu. Pengine watu wa hiyo eneo walimchagua huyu rais ambaye tuko naye. So kwa sababu kura ni siri, hakuna mtu mwenye lazima ati ahame chama ama aende chini ndio apewe maendeleo. Kama kila mwananchi analipa ushuru, anafaa kupewa maendeleo bila ati mbunge wake kwenda kinyuma, na hiyo ndio demokrasia ya kweli. Yeah.
To be
when we talk about the shilling becoming the dollar exchanging at 150 shillings, your average Kenyan would wonder, na hii dollar, what can it, you know, some of these issues look so far-fetched or a bit out of touch with the person who interacts with Kenya shillings. But just the other day we were speaking with someone we know, and they are studying abroad on a partial scholarship. So the parents contribute in the payment of partial accommodation. Now the partial accommodation is 300 USD. So the parent was sending to abroad somewhere in Europe around that K. So when the dollar is 150, to the parent somewhere hustling in Nairobi, they have to send around 50,000 shilling to shared accommodation in Europe. This currency and how it is affecting your average mwananchi is when we look at our traders and our moms and our dads who are selling second-hand Motuba clothes in Gekomba, not far from here, or even downtown Nairobi, where they have to pay the increase that we have seen here when they are importing. So the question is, because they are profiteers and they have to make profit, the money that is excess that has been used in the importation, who will be passed that burden? It is you and me when we are going to buy a nice Motuba jacket blazer or shoes or maybe something nice. So this fall of the shilling to the dollar is actually increasing the cost of living to me, because if I would have spent 500 shillings to buy a jacket, I'll buy it at 700 shilling. But my income has not increased. So if I go to downtown here to buy makeup somewhere we go near here, the seller who used to sell me some funny makeup at 500 shilling, they'll sell to me at 700 shilling. But my income is still the same. So this issue of the increase in the shilling, those issues of it was not a free fall, it was this, it was not that. For me, I see it as, at the end of the day, what does that mean to the pocket of the person whose income has not increased? And you know, there were declarations that in the next few months, it will become 120. But are the currencies stabilized by mere political declarations, or is it deliberate economic steps and deliberate economic programs that actually makes your currency to be more stronger? And Olive, you've read for us very well that in our neighboring countries, the currency is doing fairly well. So the question would be, is it now? I think we have, in Kenya now, we have become a country where we look for excuses. The other day we were looking for excuses as Israel and Ukraine. Now I think there's another war in Israel. Is it Russia and Ukraine? Now there's another war in Russia and Israel and Palestine. Will we now blame Israel because of the currency? I think for me is, at this rate, will we be at 200 shillings in the next 2 months? What is happening in our country that is not happening in our neighboring countries? Okay. Uganda, a country that is actually landlocked. All right. Those are some of the questions. Yeah, but this is